Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host. We have a geeky marketing business magic kind of call for you here today. So I'm really excited to get to bring you some of the wisdom and magic of Sarah Giffrow, who is a website master and accidental marketer. Hang tight real quick. We'll be back in just a sec. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Awesome. So Sarah is a self-described website nerd and accidental marketer. She's also the creative director and benevolent overlord of Upswept Creative, which is her boutique creative studio that offers websites and online marketing for ethical and passionate small businesses and nonprofits. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you. It sounds so much fancier when I hear someone else say it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, creative director and benevolent overlord is kind of the best professional title ever.
Yeah, I wanted to have some fun with it because, and it's your first time being in charge of a thing. You might as well. You might as well go there.
Yeah. You're the boss. I love it. Benevolent overlord. So tell us a little bit about how you got into doing the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, it was kind of a roundabout thing. Rewinding back to 2011, I was working with a nonprofit. I was doing website stuff for them, and honestly, it wasn't really doing it for me. I felt really disconnected from the people I was theoretically serving with my work. I just sort of put it out there, and I had no idea what happened after the fact, it wasn't really fulfilling me in the way that I was hoping for. So I got laid off, and that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I was I was not sad that day. And so initially I went out thinking I was going to focus on photography, which was something I'd been doing as a side hustle for quite a few years. And then I just took website projects on because I was like, I know I could do this. It's easy for me. That's fine. But as I connected with more people through the photography, particularly, I connected with a few clothing designers here in town, and then I would look at their websites, and I had seen their clothes in person and just been like, wow, these are so cool. And then I'd go to their website and it was just not doing their work justice at all. And there was that little voice in my head in those moments being like, I could fix this for you. And so I brought websites into the fold, and then yeah, websites kind of took over as the overarching thing. It sort of accidentally rediscovered my love of website design through all of that.
It's awesome. And now Upswept Creative does not only website design and SEO, but also email marketing and social media marketing as well, right?
Yeah. And I feel like that's where the accidental marketer piece comes in, because back in the day when I first started doing websites, I mean, I taught myself HTML in the 90s, so I'm from the very old internet. And
Mhm.
and yeah, as it's become, as the web has become more of a marketing tool, it became necessary to focus more on the user experience and what people are getting when they come to a website and what people are looking for. And so I ended up having to learn about marketing in general in order to create better websites that actually got results for people. And then at that point, I expanded my team out a little bit to include social media. And eventually I had a social media manager who was like, what I really like to do, what my favorite thing to do is to write email copy. And so I already knew we had the design and coding skills in-house to handle making it look good. And we had a copywriter. So I've just sort of let that growth outward happen organically. But yeah, it's fun to have my fingers in these various different pies, and also to, turn it into more of a coordinated effort as rather than just like hyper focusing on one thing. I can take a look at their whole online presence and how the different pieces are serving each other.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that I just want to zero in on a bit of your story for a second too, because I know a lot of people out there are sort of in some of the beginning phases of their journey. I always like to ask how you ended up finding your way to this work at the beginning of the episode, because everybody has this like meandering path of I went this way and then it turned out to be this other thing. And that you were turned off by doing the thing for someone else because it wasn't quite it yet, and that getting laid off from that job actually felt like a huge opportunity to do something in a new way. And even though you went back into websites, the way you were doing the same thing felt so different because you were doing it your way, or you were doing it as your own sort of entity, your own creation, your own show. And so I just want to highlight that for anyone out there who might be listening, who's thinking, oh, I hate doing this thing I do. Maybe it's something else you're meant to do, or maybe it's just a different avenue through which you're meant to do that thing that you're actually really great at. And it's the container you're doing it in that feels yucky or off. So I just wanted to point that out in case anyone's listening thinking, I have to start at ground zero. It might not be ground zero. It might just be, same work, different platform, different avenue. But you have a lot of wisdom to share. I love that you're from the old internet, as you call it. I think there's a lot of things that you may be aware of or like notice. I see people's websites and email marketing a lot differently than the average person does as well. I'm wondering if there's anything to keep in mind when people are putting together their website or they're thinking about their brand and how they're showing up in the world. What are some key things to maybe take into consideration or to have an awareness of before they're putting out all that stuff?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that gets overlooked is just the quality of your content. I think people who are like hiring agencies to do their website, it really depends on who you're working with. There are some folks who are just like, I'm just going to do the design and the code, and you got to fill in the other blanks. But those other blanks are they're the most important part, because you could have the most beautiful thing in the world, but if it's not delivering the right message, then it's not going to get you anywhere. So you really need to have a plan in place as far as, how your website content is going to get created, and have at least some idea of what to say at what different points in their journey as they navigate through your website. And yeah, for Upswept, we like to just handle all of that because those are some really hard questions sometimes. And we have the kind of knowledge that can fill in a lot of those blanks for you. But yeah, I think there's a lot of strategy built into the content that doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
Totally. Yeah. Which is what having a skilled copywriter in your pocket is really great for, is it's not just, am I calling out the right person, but am I describing this work effectively so that they can find their way in, find their way to choosing this as a path. I know SEO is a thing. Even I have had like a lot of resistance to giving a shit about SEO. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is, how it works, and, maybe a tip or two about how to increase the use of it?
So yeah, I guess in a nutshell, SEO is basically about, I mean, it stands for search engine optimization. So saying SEO optimization is redundant. That's a little pet peeve of mine. But yeah, you're essentially trying to optimize your website in order to have it rank really highly when people search for particular things. And usually you have some idea of what key search terms you want to show up in the results for. Like basically you're thinking about, what's someone going to type in if they're looking for someone like me? What are they going to type into Google? And I think the big thing to know is that there's kind of two pieces to it, two major pieces that I think of. One is that you've got the really technical side of things, which is something that I handle, in the design and development phase, where you're making sure that the right page structure is in place on the back end. So your headlines are at the appropriate levels, and your page titles and your meta tags, and yeah, all this really super technical stuff that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to touch that. But that structure needs to be there in order for your content and those key terms to get picked up and given the importance and the emphasis that they deserve. And then a lot of it is content driven these days. So it's really about writing content on your website that's, weaves in those key search terms, but not super repetitively. And a lot of those old tricks, like keyword stuffing is what they call it, where you basically just like, I'm trying to use as many key search terms in this sentence as possible. And it ends up sounding like a robot. But the search engines, they can see through that now. So you might actually get downranked for that. So yeah, I think a lot of times folks tend to overthink that whole process, but really it's ultimately it's you want to create copy that's, good for people, that's like enjoyable to read for people, because then it also ends up being good for search engines, assuming you're using those key search terms that you want to rank for.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's more about putting things in the right place and making it make sense.
Right. Yeah. And I think, again, that's another point in your favor of why it's awesome to have somebody who has that web knowledge, that SEO awareness to help you edit things or help you publish things or help you even produce those things in the first place to put onto your website when you're like, I have an idea, I want to put this up, to have somebody who's, going to maximize the exposure of that by setting it up on your website for you is kind of a brilliant thing to have in your pocket if you're really trying to grow your business, really trying to increase exposure on how many people are seeing the things that you're, bothering to create, that you're putting effort into making. It's really smart to do that. As far as who you work with, like what are some of the people who tend to come and work with you? You said passionate, ethical, small businesses and nonprofits, but like who are your sweet spot clients? Who do you work with the most?
Yeah, I think I like to use the words ethical and passionate because I think a lot of times they're people who are wanting to change lives in some way or another. And, nonprofits obviously fit into that because, they're trying to create change within our community. And then, yeah, a lot of the service-based entrepreneurs that I work with are, trying to create positive change on a more individual level. Like, there's like, yeah, for example, we have a float tank therapy is one of our past clients, and yeah, people in the wellness industry, and yeah, people who want to deliver something for people that like has a positive effect on their daily lives. And I also feel like we've had a number of really cool folks that are kind of in the like diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice type of space. We've had a few consultants in that realm where they're really just focused on like creating more equitable workplaces and helping teams, drive DEIJ initiatives and things like that. I'm really into that stuff. I really like being able to work with people who have similar values. We're a little bit radical anti-capitalist up in here, but we try to keep it light.
Yeah, but that's, important for the people who align with that and who want to, be surrounded by that kind of awareness and energy. How cool to be able to go to boutique marketing firm like yours. I wanted to use that, boutique creative studios. You had to read that right. To
Yeah.
get all of your marketing needs like handled and represented while also supporting a business that shares your values. Like that's really important. And I think that's a really good reminder to everyone out there who's running a business that sharing your values and sharing the things that really matter to you are just going to draw in more people who align with that message. And that makes doing your work so much fun because you're supporting people who have similar worldview and that want to see the same future arise as you do. And that's how we start shifting the paradigm and making cool things happen, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Cool. I would love to just give some tips or insights, like anything you have to share that if somebody's out there growing a business, maybe they're ready to hire a marketing firm, maybe they're not quite there yet. What are some things that they should just keep in mind as far as, how to find the thread of their message or how to start showing up online so that their people can find them?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times gathering inspiration can be really useful and just like looking at what else is out there and seeing what resonates with you. And I always like to ask my clients also to provide things that they don't like, or they're just like, I absolutely do not want my marketing to look like this ever. Yeah, I mean, even that is just really useful in terms of just like setting certain boundaries for yourself and having a better understanding of like, okay, so even if I'm not quite sure who I'm talking to yet, I know I'm not talking to these people over here. So yeah, that can be an easier starting point sometimes, just thinking about like, okay, if I don't know who I want, do I know who I don't want? And sort of helps you narrow the field down a little bit. Yeah. And yeah, I'm like, what else even is there?
Yeah, well, I'll play on that point for a second. One thing I definitely invite people to do as far as email marketing is the same kind of thing. Like if you're thinking about building a website, go find a bunch of websites that you just love and also a few you don't love. And if you're thinking about writing emails to an email list, go look in your inbox and see whose emails you actually read or care about and whose emails you don't every single time. And that will give you so much information because it's very likely the people who you're trying to attract are kind of like you in some ways. They're probably going to be interested in the same kind of energy in an email or the same kind of vibe on a website. So noticing what resonates with you is a really great sort of barometer for creating something that's going to resonate with your people. And your inbox when it comes to email marketing, seeing what you engage with in your inbox or the kinds of programs that you buy or the kinds of, Instagram feeds that you follow and love, that's a great insight for you to sort of guide your own creations in.
Yeah, and I think it's like especially important if, you're a solopreneur or if you're in like a situation where you are the brand, then I feel like it's doubly important to, think about like what resonates with you specifically and also to put your values out there and put your personality out there because those are going to be some of the things that differentiate you from anyone else who might be doing something similar to you. You're doing it your own way. You're bringing your own special sauce to it and people need to know that.
Yeah, totally. Last time you and I spoke, you were talking about the website in a day workshop. I don't know if that's already happened or if that's still going to be coming up, but will you tell us a little bit about that idea and that people could maybe come to it someday?
Yeah, we'll be slating that for the fall. We've had a few things shift around on the team. So yeah, we pushed it back a bit. Also, it's summer, people want to be outside, so I want to honor that. But yeah, what's the website in a day? It's called the Zero to Website Workshop. And yeah, essentially it's just a 1 day intensive where we spend the first part of the day like really dialing in some of that content strategy I was talking about earlier, as far as just, planning out together what's going to be on your website and what you're going to say at what points as people move through your website. And so you actually know what you're working with. And then in the back half of the day, you'll get to start plugging some of those changes in. And you'll also have me over your shoulder in case you run into any sticky technical points. So I would be able to help you resolve those issues in real time. So yeah, it's a new thing that I haven't tried before, but I really believe in and appreciate the power of just like, getting a handful of folks together and talking through our ideas and our messaging. Like there's a lot of power in that collaborative approach. So I'm really hoping to harness that and help people better dial in their messaging and really feel like they have an idea of what to put on their websites, because a lot of times people just don't know what to even say at first, and it's a big question and it can be really hard to answer without some guidance.
Totally. So that Zero to Website workshop is going to be live in person in Portland, Oregon, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but you also work with clients who are not necessarily local to Portland, Oregon, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're able to work with clients, anywhere in the world. As long as you can get on a Zoom with us sometime during the waking hours of Pacific time, we can make it work for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that because if you've been beating your head against the wall about your website and it's been like making you feel not ready, I will say you don't have to have a website to run a business. It just makes it way easier. It makes it easier. You don't have to use social media to run your business. It just makes it easier. Like there's pieces of the puzzle to put in place that just create more momentum and more downstream ease filled experiences later on, years later, that you build momentum in a way that you might not otherwise if you don't implement some of these tools. So if you've been feeling that tension of not having a website or not having a social media presence or not giving your email list some attention, definitely reach out to Sarah. We're going to put the link to upsweptcreative.com in the show notes. And if you happen to be in the Portland area sometime this fall, probably check upsweptcreative.com for the dates of that workshop, which I don't know, maybe I'll do it again next year too. We'll see. But give it a shot, show up. It's actually the idea of spending a whole day just like hammering out that thing that is so emotional and hard for some people to like approach, much less navigate on their own, that to do that as a collective, to do that in a really creative, yummy space, and to have somebody who is a literal expert at it looking over your shoulder, helping you with the details of it when you get into the nitty gritty, the weeds of the technology, that can be really helpful. I think that's a really awesome offering and a great idea. So also following Sarah on Instagram at Upswept Creative is a really great idea. She posts some great videos and insights and things that you might want to be reminded of as you're growing a business, as you're starting to reach out and share your work with more people. Yeah. Also, Sarah has been in my magic program, Magnetic Influencer Collective, for the last 6 months. Is there anything you want to share with people about how that went for you?
Yeah, I think that it was just really lovely to like have that regular group of folks that we were all able to like share our various wins or our struggles, which, I've had a few over the past 6 months, but I'm feeling real good about where I am now. And yeah, and just having all of this really, really unique encouragement to, change my perspective on what's happening in a given moment, or shift how I'm looking at a particular problem, or even a particular way that I'm talking about what I do. Like, I think that's the group, and also your guidance, Molly, was just, yeah, some of those shifts in perspective was really valuable to me.
So I'm glad. I'm grateful to have gotten to share that space with you too. Magic is coming right up. So if anybody's out there listening and thinking, I want to spend 6 months in that juicy, yummy creative space with other leaders who are going to celebrate me and acknowledge me for the whole 6 months, reach out, let me know, wildheartsraiseup.com if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing so much wisdom and magic, and just for doing the work that you do. I know some people have a really hard time with technology and a really hard time with just getting the word out about their business in the first place, so that you get to carry the torch for them and help show them that it could be easier, that you don't have to do it all by yourself, is a huge gift to the world, and especially a huge gift to those people who are making a difference in other people's lives, who are leading nonprofits or growing small businesses that really need help with the parts that aren't their expertise. It's so valuable to get to do that work for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes me feel good to know that I can do things that make it so they don't have to spend as much time, selling themselves or selling their cause, and they can spend more time doing the stuff that really lights them up. So, oh yeah, it feels good to get up in the morning and do that.
Awesome. Any last words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
I'd say go take a nap. I feel like we all deserve a nap today. Yeah. One of the things you'll see, if you follow us on Instagram, is that yeah, we're big proponents of work-life balance and rest, and yeah, just making sure that your work is serving your life, not the other way around.
Yeah. And getting support is a really great way to do that better, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for being on the show, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening. We'll put that link in the show notes. Definitely go follow Sarah and Upswept Creative on Instagram at Upswept Creative. And whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you're here for a reason. Bye.